Hello guys and welcome back to Oz on the Ball. This is my round 18 tips video. So after this round we'll be 3/4 of the way through the season, and as I've been saying the last couple of weeks, top 9 definitely broke clear. Only 9 teams can make finals. There's a 3-game gap between 9th and 10th, and then there's also I think a 10-point gap between 1st and 2nd. So there's really some clear teams that are going well at the moment. Collingwood, premiership favourites, and then it's really a case of who misses out on the 8 out of those teams, sort of Freo, GWS, Gold Coast. But anyway, this is my intro, not the actual video itself. So last week got 8 out of 9 tips, which on paper looks good, but it was the most boring and easy round to tip of footy you've seen in a while. As in, most of the games were one-sided. They were all top 9 v bottom 9, showing the gap between the two parts. And the only upset was Sydney beating Freo at home, which was sort of a 50-50 game. And then Oz Coles, I did not have a good week, got 0 out of 9, so that was not good at all. So the first game of the round, we had North Melbourne Western Bulldogs. As I said, I got 8 out of 9 tips, which wasn't great. So Bulldogs, I said they'd win by 55. They won by 49, so not too bad of a margin. Then on the Friday night, we had the double games. First game was a blockbuster, but this result was expected. Collingwood beat Carlton pretty comfortably. And then, I don't know who was watching this one, GWS West Coast. GWS got a pretty easy win over in the West. And then the Saturday, Gold Coast ran away from Essendon in the last quarter. Geelong smashed Richmond. Lions got a comfortable win over Port, and then St Kilda Hawthorn was not a pretty game to watch, but the Hawks did get up. And then I would say the two best games of the round were on Sunday. Had Sydney Freo. The only real upset for the round was a pretty good game, but Sydney led all game and got up in the end. And then Adelaide-Melbourne. Melbourne gave Adelaide a fair run for their money, but Adelaide were always going to be the stronger side. So that was the round. On to my tips for the round. So first game of the round, Thursday night, we've got Carlton v Brisbane, Marvel Stadium, 7:30pm. Carlton record of 6-10 last week, lost to Collingwood by 56. It wasn't a great performance for the third week in a row, coming off losses to Port and North. But you'd expect Collingwood would have won, and they won pretty convincingly in the end, and they could have won by a lot more, to be honest. But Carlton, well, Collingwood didn't do much in the last quarter. Neither side really did much, and it ended up being pretty similar to the three-quarter time score. But Collingwood really could have won by like 90 or even 100 points. But a win's a win for Collingwood, and they're flying at the top of the ladder, whilst the Blues, well, they're going to miss finals, and Michael Voss is under pressure as their coach. Then you got the Lions, 11-1-4. Last week beat Port Adelaide by 28. It was a pretty good performance. I didn't watch any of the game because I was watching the Saints game, but Zach Bailey kicked 5, which is pretty crazy, and it looks like they were in control for most of the game after. Well, they had a really good first quarter, kicked 8 goals, and then were, just in control of the game for the rest of the game. And it's a win they should be getting, and basically locked in for finals now. They had like 2 or 3 more wins to make finals, but they'll be looking at top 2. Because I think first place is nearly out of their reach now, but I think they'll be looking to ensure that they get second spot and give themselves a home qualifying final. So I reckon this game, it's pretty obvious who's going to win. I'm going to tip Brisbane by 32. With my Oz call, Carlton scored 10 or less goals. Next game on the Friday night, Gold Coast v Collingwood, People's First Stadium, 7:40pm. This is a massive match. This match decides whether Gold Coast are finals ready or not. They don't necessarily have to win, but if they can put up a good performance and lose in a close one, as opposed to coming out and getting absolutely smashed by Collingwood like they always seem to do. So I feel like they're going to live up to the occasion. Well, they need to live up to the occasion. Rare Friday night home match. Record of 10-5. Last week beat Essendon by 41. It was a good performance given they've got to beat Essendon twice. Well, had to beat Essendon twice in the run home. They've beat them once. They play them again in round 24, the rescheduled match. So they'll be looking to win that. But for this match, yeah, just try and put up a good performance against, obviously, best team in the comp. Then Collingwood 14-2. Last week beat Carlton by 56. Pretty cruisy performance. They've had a couple of cruisy weeks. Beat St Kilda, beat West Coast, beat Carlton, but I think they've got obviously Gold Coast now, and I think they've got Freo, and then a couple of weeks later they've got Brisbane. So tough couple of matches, but you'd think they'll win them all, and I think they're going to win this one. I'm going to tip Collingwood by 14, with my Oz called Gold Coast lead at quarter time. Next game, this game was originally at Mars Stadium. Got the Crows and the Bulldogs. Marvel 1:20pm Saturday. Bulldogs 10-6 last week beat North by 49. It was a pretty comfortable performance. Tom Liberatore played very well, and North did give them a bit of a run for their money in the first half, but then the Bulldogs overpowered them in the second half. Won quite comfortably in the end by 49 points. They love beating up the bad teams, and they're 10-6 now. I think they've won 4 in a row, so they're really building in some form, but this will be a massive match. Then you got the Crows 11-5 last week, beat Melbourne by 13. It was a pretty good performance, like a performance they needed. They didn't smash them, but a win's a win. You'll take those sort of wins. Melbourne are good on their day, and they definitely played well on Sunday, but the Crows did well to come back after Melbourne had a lot of the dominance in the second quarter. Come back, get a win, and they'll be looking for another win here. I'm going to tip the Crows in probably an upset by 6, with my Ollie's call Isaac Rankin and Riley Thilthorpe combined for 6+ goals. Next game on the Saturday twilight, NG Stadium, 4:15pm. Got the Giants and Cats. Giants 10-6 last week beat West Coast by 59. Did not watch a single second of the game, but a result you expected. Giants got an easy win in Perth, which is all they needed, and they'll be looking to make finals. And this game, if they could win that, I would lock them. If they win this, I'd lock them in for finals. Then Geelong 11-5 last week beat Richmond by 72. Pretty comfortable win, which you would expect over Richmond, especially at home. But this one's going to be a tough match for both sides. It could go either way. Geelong are the favourites. I'm going to tip Geelong by 17. With my Ollie's call, Max Holmes has 30+ disposals. Next game, MCG 7:35pm Saturday night. Got Essendon v Richmond. It feels like 2 weeks ago these sides last played. It was round 11, so like 7 or 8 weeks ago these sides last played, which is pretty crazy. It has to be the minimum in between you can play sides. But Richmond, both these teams have not done well since that game. Richmond 3-13 lost to Geelong by 72. Yeah, it was a pretty disappointing performance. They kicked a couple of goals late, but easily could have been more than 100 points. And after being 3-6, they've really gone down, hit a downward spiral, losing 7 in a row. And then you've got Essendon. They were 6-4. They've lost 5 in a row, I'm pretty sure. It was a good first 3 quarters, but then Gold Coast just ran over the top of them in the last quarter, and Gold Coast won by 41. I reckon I'm going to go the upset here. I went the upset for this game earlier in the season. I tipped Richmond. They didn't get up, but I reckon it's going to change. They're going to win this one by 12. And my Ollie scored both teams combined for less than 160 points. Next game, Optus 8:10pm Saturday, got Freo v Hawthorn. Freo 10-6 last week, lost to Sydney by 11. Wasn't a great performance. They don't travel. Freo aren't a good travelling side. They play a lot better at Optus, and that was clearly shown on Sunday with the Swans getting over them, getting up with the win, and that now they sit as the team outside the 8 that's going to miss finals. So this is a big match. If they can win this 11-6, they possibly get back in the 8, which would be massive for them. Or I reckon they would. And then you got the Hawks 11-5 last week, beat St Kilda by 20. That was all they needed. They didn't play their best, and the Saints definitely had their opportunities, but so did the Hawks. And a win's a win. They're 11-5. They've hit some form, and this game could go either way again. But I'm going to tip the Hawks in this one. I'm going to tip Hawthorn by 24. And my other's called Jai Amos kicks 3+ goals. Next game, MCG 1:10 PM Sunday, got Melbourne v North Melbourne. Last time these sides played, North Melbourne absolutely smashed Melbourne, and now Melbourne are strong favourites after their recent form. They haven't got any wins, but they have put up a fight against some decent teams. So Melbourne 5-11 last week, lost to Adelaide by 13. It was a pretty good performance in that second quarter, but they're never going to be able to maintain a performance like that. And then North Melbourne 4-1-11. Great first quarter, good first half, but then they just fell off in the second half, ended up losing by 49. This game could go either way. I feel like North have got it in them to win this. I'm going to tip them because my tipping's already screwed, so why not just tip a bunch of upsets? So I'm going to tip North by 11, with my others called Christian Petrarca has 25+ disposals. Next game, Marvel Stadium 3:15 Sunday. I've got St Kilda v Sydney. St Kilda 5-11 last week, lost to Hawthorn by 20. It was a decent performance. If we took our chances, we would have played a lot better. But Hawthorn had their chances too, so 20 points is probably how much we should have lost by. And then you got Sydney last week beat Freo by 11, 7-9. Last year in this game at Marvel, similar time of the season, we actually got up over Sydney in a close one, but teams are in very different spots. Sydney were on top of the ladder. We were a bit higher on the ladder, but now Sydney are going to just miss finals, and we're not going so well. I reckon Sydney are going to get up in this one. I'm going to tip them by 31, with my Ollie's call that Sydney lead at all changes. And then the final game of the round got Port Adelaide v West Coast, Adelaide Oval, 4:40 PM Sunday. Port Adelaide 7-9 last week, lost to Brisbane by 28. Wasn't a good performance. Well, it was a decent performance. I don't know. I didn't watch any of the match, but you'd expect them to lose a game like that, and I think they put up a decent fight. They were up early, but then Brisbane just ran over the top of them, and they're probably going to miss finals. And Ken Hinkley's last season, at the start of the season, I said they'll win the premiership, which looks a bit stupid now, but you never know. So I didn't know at the start of the season, but I guess they're just looking forward to next year and a new coach next year. And then West Coast 1-15 last week, lost to GWS by 59. Didn't watch any of that match either, but it's what you would expect, and Giants won pretty easy and West Coast got smashed, which happens most weeks. So, and I think that'll happen again. I think Port Adelaide are going to win. I'm going to tip them by 68, with my Ollie's called Port Adelaide lead all game. So, just to recap of my tips, first game, Brisbane v Carlton, Thursday night. I think it's pretty obvious who's going to win this one. I'm going to tip the Lions to get up by a pretty comfortable margin of 32 points. And then Friday night, also a pretty easy game to tip. Suns are a chance, but I reckon Collingwood will be too strong, so I'm going to tip Collingwood. And then the Saturday, first game, Bulldogs Adelaide. I'm going the upset here. I'm going to tip Adelaide to get up, and then Cats should get up over GWS. Another upset, I'm going to tip Richmond to get up over Essendon, and then Freo Hawthorn 50-50 game, I'm going to tip the Hawks to get up, and then another upset, I'm just tipping upsets for fun this round, going to tip North to get up over Melbourne, Sydney should beat the Saints, and Port Adelaide should beat West Coast. So those are my tips for round 18. Thanks for watching Others on the Ball. Make sure to like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed another tips video. Sorry about the lack of content lately, but as we move into the footy finals, there'll hopefully be a bit more, and also some other sports like cricket and soccer. But thanks for watching Others on the Ball. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. You don't have to, but it'll really help out the channel. But thanks for watching, and see you next time.